Hello everyone, here is Professor Carla speaking. This is a series of videos in which I come to briefly talk about some books, literary books, fiction, actually. And today, the first one of this series is Dubliners by James Joyce. It's a collection of 15 short stories about people from Dublin but also could resemble people from all over. At that moment, the book was published, the turning of a century, okay, from the 19th to the 20th century. So this collection brings 15 stories about ordinary people, from children to adults, elderly, and living their ordinary lives in Dublin in the beginning of the century. So even though they are 15 fragments, they are unified by a theme, the theme of paralysis. So most of people here, they come to that moment in which you need to decide, you need to take some action, and they feel like stuck. They feel stuck, they feel paralyzed, they feel frozen, and they cannot decide exactly what to do. So the stories are very interesting in that aspect. But there is also something interesting. The final story, The Dead, it talks about actually, it was made into a film, a very nice one, very important one. You have the chance to watch it by. In the cast, we have Angelica Houston, so it's a very beautiful movie. And this final story, a little bit different from the others, even though there is still the theme of paralysis. The main character, Gabriel, he comes to the realization that everything that he thought that was solid, that everything that he took for granted, all of a sudden, because of one happening that I'm not going to tell you, you have to read to get that. Because of one thing that happened that night at a party, everything changes. He comes to the realization that the world could not be taken for granted anymore. And then he has this epiphany moment. And to finish this, or to give you a little taste of that, I'm going to read the final paragraphs of this story, in which Gabriel comes to the realization that the world was changing. And this anguish and this feeling of unknown, of not knowing what to do, is very important for this book, and will pave the way for Ulysses, also a very famous book by James Joyce. So let's see then. Generous tears filled Gabriel's eyes. He had never felt like that himself towards any woman, but he knew that such a feeling must be love. The tears gathered more thickly in his eyes, and in the partial darkness he imagined he saw the form of a young man standing under a dripping tree. And then I will move on. A few light taps upon the pane made him turn to the window. It had begun to snow again. He watched sleepless the flakes, silver and dark, falling obliquely against the lamplight. The time had come for him to get out on his journey westward. Yes, the newspapers were right. Snow was general all over Ireland. It was falling on every part of the dark central plain, on the treeless hills, falling softly upon the Bog of Avon and farther westward, softly falling into the dark mutinous channel waves. It was falling, too, upon every part of the lonely churchyard, on the hill where Michael Ferry lay buried. It lay thickly drifted on the crooked crosses and headstones, on the spears of the little gate, on the barren thorns. His soul swooned slowly as he heard the snow falling, faintly through the universe, and faintly falling, like the descent of their last end, upon all the living and the dead. This quotation is very beautiful, and I hope you have the chance to read this book and enjoy it as I do. Okay, and Sometime from now, we are coming back to talk or to briefly present another book. So read it, Dubliners by James Joyce. Take care.